Alrighty, well, thank you so much and welcome. We appreciate all of you joining us this evening. My name is Julie and I will be your hostess, but I do have quite a few of my friends that will be happy on to share their stories tonight as well. So if you were invited to this call, it's because somebody who respects you very much and wants you to know what we're up to. There is a group of us. We are actually a part of a group of thousands, a unique community that we call the Healthy Living Revolution. And we are really on a mission to help take healthy back here in America and beyond. And we want to meet families where they're at and provide them with solutions that are simple, doable, and fun. So we hope that you appreciate this information tonight. I'm going to get going because we're covering a lot in a short amount of time. So unfortunately, the reason we're really passionate about educating on this topic is because there are two very startling trends happening in our world right now. And first of all, our environmental toxins are increasing. So whether this is through the product you put on your skin, through the water you drink, the pharmaceuticals you're taking, the food you're eating, the air you're breathing, our toxic load is higher now than it's ever been, much higher than it was for our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents. But at the same time that that is happening, our food quality is dramatically decreasing. And I really like this image because he's in the center aisles of the grocery store. And I like to refer to those aisles typically, some of it really isn't food anymore, it's food-like products. I know when I started on my journey 5 years ago of really learning a lot about health, I made a big switch from looking at calories and fat to looking at ingredient labels. And I always aim for less than 5 ingredients and ingredients that I can pronounce. And it's incredibly eye-opening to really learn what's in our food, because our food should be what's fighting against all of these environmental toxins that we're exposed to. This is Dr. David Katz. He is head of research at Yale. And he said this may be the first generation of children to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And unfortunately, at the rate we're going right now, that has since been confirmed that if we don't make changes, this will be the first generation that has a shorter life expectancy. By age 12, many of our children have developed the beginning stages of hardening of the arteries. 1 in 3 children is obese, 1 in 3 will develop diabetes, and more than 25% of children take prescription drugs on a regular basis. And this is Dr. David Sears. He's known as America's pediatrician. Unfortunately, adults aren't faring much better. 1 in 3 people live with some form of cardiovascular disease. 1 in 3 women will have cancer, and 1 in 2 men. 1 in 3 will have diabetes by 2050, and 1 in 3 is obese. But the reason we're on the call tonight is really because of that quote at the very bottom that says 75% of all chronic disease is preventable. And I know when I started my journey 5 years ago, that was really what got me fired up. And I got really interested in learning what I could do and what kind of changes I could make to help prevent disease. So disease starts, and our aging process starts with something called oxidative stress. And this is happening to our cells on every day, on a daily basis. It's happening to all of us. And actually, if you exercise, if you intake more oxygen, you have more oxidative stress in your body. And it really is the aging of our cells. It's our aging process or our internal rusting. So I want you to think about an apple. And when you cut an apple in half, or the second the flesh is exposed to the air, it starts to oxidize. It starts to brown. Well, that same thing is happening to our cells every single day. But as you know, whenever you take an apple, if you were to squeeze it with a lemon or lemon juice or an antioxidant, it's going to slow or delay that aging or that oxidation process. So our best defense against the stress that our cells are up against is antioxidants. Well, most of us know where we get antioxidants from. It's from fruits and vegetables. But unfortunately, our mass-produced produce is packing a much less nutritional punch than it was years and years ago. So because we can go to the grocery store and buy a plethora of fruits and vegetables, unfortunately, most of them are picked 1 to 2 weeks before we buy them in the grocery store, and then they're meant to sit on our countertops for hopefully 5 to 7 days, giving us time to eat them. But unfortunately, 80% of nutrition comes into our produce within the last 24 to 48 hours of ripening on the vine. So as you know, when you go to the grocery store just today, all of the bananas were bright green. I know that those bananas weren't even close to getting vine ripened, therefore having much less nutritional punch than it used to. On top of that, there's a whole nother topic called soil depletion. I can't even go into that. There's a ton of info there. Just Google it. You'll be mind blown. But this image is incredibly powerful. This is the iron content that was present in a bowl of spinach in 1953. In 1997, you had to have 43 bowls of spinach in order to get the iron content equivalent to what was present in 1953. And that was 21 years ago. So who knows where we're at today, but it shows why those stats from those doctors earlier on in this presentation, why they're so overwhelming. It's because we are really fighting an uphill battle. So we thought, years and years ago in the 1950s that vitamins and supplements were the answer. And there actually was a time when they thought that there were 12 key nutrients in fruits and vegetables that we needed, and that's when we came up with the multivitamin. But over the past 10 years, we have actually discovered that there are 20,000 different ingredients present in one bite of apple, and over 25,000 different ingredients in one blueberry. And all of those different ingredients are meant to work synergistically together to either heal us from the inside out or keep us well. So ingredient number 7 and ingredient number 15,080 and ingredient number 402 really are meant to work together. So whenever we started trying to bridge the gap with multivitamins 50, 60 years ago, as you can see, not only have we not gotten much healthier, but they actually could be harming us even. So many of you probably know whenever you've had a vitamin and next thing you know, your urine turns yellow or maybe your stomach gets upset. Your body doesn't know what to do with isolated man-made synthetic vitamins, but it does know what to do with an apple and it knows what to do with a blueberry. So forever, we were supposed to have 5 a day, right? And then they said, you know what, actually you need 7 to 13 fruits and vegetables a day. And the government more recently changed that to just saying more matters. And the reason is because no American right now has an overload of fruits and vegetables. Nobody's consuming too many. We are fighting such an uphill battle that we need as many as we can get, especially because our fruits and vegetables are so depleted. So it was over 30 years ago that a doctor, Dr. Smokey Santillo, developed something called Juice Plus. And at the time, he was actually very ahead of his time. He was a holistic doctor, and he worked with cancer patients, and he helped them juice. Well, his dad was diagnosed with lymphoma, and he was given 6 weeks to live. And he was trying to find a way to make his juice more powerful. And it was at that time that he decided that instead of juicing the fruits and vegetables, he was going to take the whole entire thing, with the leaves, the stem, the pits, the peel, the rind, and blend it up almost like in a massive Vitamix. He took what was left over and he dehydrated it at a cold temperature, removing the sugar and the water. And what was left was like a powdered produce, or what we like to call a farmer's market in a capsule. And he just started flooding his dad with this powdered produce. And his dad ended up living for 6 more years. And not only did he live, but he thrived. He helped his son build a house. He had great quality of life. And it was at that time that Dr. Smokey thought he was on to something. And 25 years ago, our product Juice Plus hit the market. This has been around for 25 years. And this is what, if you've been invited to this call, this is what your friend has found that has likely very much changed their life and their perspective. It's taught them so much about the power of fruits and vegetables. So you can see this incredible variety here on this screen of all of these different colors that we were meant to have and that we now get, and my family gets every single day. So our product is incredibly unique, and that's because first and foremost, we have a food label. Yeah, okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's a nutrition label, not a vitamin or a supplement label, because this really is just food in a capsule. So you cannot overdose. There's no warning label like there would be on a vitamin. It's just this beautiful produce in a capsule. It's full of phytonutrition instead of isolated vitamins. It's non-GMO, dairy-free, and gluten-free. We have an NSF certification, which is a third party that guarantees that what we say is in our product really is and nothing more. It is the highest level of certification that you can get, and that is very important because the supplement industry is not regulated. And then finally, when this was released to the market 25 years ago, people started having some very unique experiences. And we decided to figure out why that was happening. And so today we have over 38 published clinical studies in peer-reviewed medical journals. We are the most researched whole food nutritional product in the world. We've been researched at Brigham Young, Yale, Vanderbilt, MD Anderson Cancer Center, some of the most prestigious universities in the world. And it's silly if you think about it. What our research proves is how powerful fruits and vegetables are, but not just fruits and vegetables, our actual products on human beings with blood drawn. So I'm going to take a second to tell you my most favorite research study because I cannot help myself. This was done at the University of Maryland. It was published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, and it was the brainchild of a group of cardiologists. So heart disease is the #1 killer for both men and women in our country. And these cardiologists knew that over 50% of heart attacks happen after a high-fat meal. That's why Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving are really terrible days in the ER. So what they wanted to do was see the effects of Juice Plus on patients eating a high-fat meal. So they took a group of people to McDonald's and fed them a high-fat breakfast. And then they waited 4 hours, and they wanted to see the constriction in their brachial artery. And they found that just about everyone had around a 50% constriction. Their body was working 50% harder to pump blood through their body 4 hours after eating that high-fat McDonald's breakfast. I know you're going to think differently next time you drive through McDonald's. But then they divided the group up into a group of 3. One was on a placebo, one was on our fruit and our veggie blends, and the last one was on our fruits, veggies, and berries. So everything that we offer. And they waited just 28 days, and they took them back and fed them the exact same high-fat meal. The group on the placebo, 4 hours later, had relatively the same constriction. The group on our fruits and our veggies had 68% less constriction than they did 28 days prior. And our group on all 3 with our berries had less, they went from 50% constriction to less than 1% constriction. They had 98% less than they did 28 days prior. So the reason I love that study is because it actually proves what our government is saying, that more matters. This group of people did not make any other changes to their diet. All they did was flood their body with powdered produce, and they saw that much of a change in just 28 days. So we really all do need, from womb to tomb, we all need more fruits and vegetables in our body. So if you consider your body like a car, you need oil and gas for a car to run well, just like your body needs micronutrition and macronutrition. So obviously, if you're low on oil or if you have low quality oil, your car will still run, but some problems might be brewing or it might not be running as well. And it's the same with our bodies. Micronutrition is the phytonutrition in fruits and vegetables, the 20,000 different ingredients in an apple. You need that to run well. Macronutrition is proteins, fats, and carbs. And in our country, we have an abundance of macronutrition, but we do not have very high quality macronutrition. So that's where our shakes come in. These will actually fill your body. Our capsules is that micronutrition, and our Juice Plus Complete Shakes is macronutrition. It's low glycemic, so it stabilizes your blood sugar. If the one thing I hear from my customers most is that it actually keeps me full. It's vegan and non-GMO, gluten and dairy free. It's plant-based. It has 24 different plants in it and wonderful prebiotic fiber. Now, these are delicious. I have a friend who calls it her chocolate broccoli. My husband, myself, my 4-year-old, my 2-year-old, we have one every single day. That's how we start our day. They're so good. And then last October, we introduced our first capsule product in over 15 years, and it's our Juice Plus Omega Blend. If you're seeing me on the camera, it's these beautiful beauties here. We know that omega fatty acids support our heart, our brain, joints, skin, and eyes. Many people know about the power of a fish oil. That's why so many of us are taking them. This is actually a 100% plant-based oil. So instead of getting our omega-3 from the fish, we get it from the algae that the fish eat. That's where they get it as well, which makes it much more sustainable. It's also a full spectrum omega. So it's not just omega-3. It's omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And then finally, it's cold pressed, which is really important. Whenever you see a lot of these fish oil products or other omega products, when they're fully encapsulated, they have to be heated up to a certain temperature in order to be encapsulated like that, which degrades the quality of the oil. It took our company years to come up with the technology to cold press our oils in order to maintain the nutrients. And it is also vegetarian capsules, so therefore it is a totally vegetarian oil, so not a fish oil, obviously. And oh gosh, I had something else to say and I totally blanked. So I love these omegas. I'll tell my story about them in just a moment. So that was a lot of info really quickly. And at this point, I want to bring on my friend Kristen, if she could unmute herself and just share her story of why Juice Plus made sense to her and why she decided to add this to her diet and her family's diet.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, ladies. Thank you for joining tonight. It means a lot to us. I'm privileged to be able to share my story with you guys tonight. So before I began this journey with this community, I considered myself really healthy, pretty healthy. I looked healthy on the outside. I thought I was doing the right things. It wasn't until my daughter was born about 1.5 years ago that I started having these, what we called weak spells. And they happened about once a week, and it would be middle of the day. I almost couldn't function anymore. I would have to basically pass out and kind of lay down, drink lots of water, eat lots of snacks. I was lucky if I got my kids down for a nap before this happened. And so the problem was they began to be more often than just once a week. It started to be twice a week, then 3 times a week, then 4 times a week. And it was starting to dictate my daily activities. I didn't want to go places. I was afraid that I was going to have a weak spell. And I would try to battle it with water and food, and nothing was helping. And I was getting really frustrated, and I was thinking, this is not what healthy is. This is not my healthy. So that is when I started to pay attention pretty closely to what Julie had joined, this healthy living community. And so I decided that I was going to try these fruit and veggie and berry capsules. I mean, what did I have to lose? So I decided to go ahead and try them. And a month in, I wasn't having weak spells. And so I thought to myself, maybe I'm just taking better care of myself. Maybe I'm eating better. But I think I started to realize that my body was obviously not getting nutrients that it desperately needed. So fast forward to today, I still have not had any weak spells, and that is huge for me. So I am extremely happy about that. I've also noticed a lot of other things, small but still important. I feel like my skin is better. I feel like I have more energy overall, especially when I have to run around, chase after 2 kids. My husband is also taking the trio and the omegas, and he is saying the same. He has more energy. He recovers quicker from church basketball, which is pretty intense. But I feel like the longer we are on these capsules, we just feel better, and we notice a difference. So obviously our bodies are getting the nutrients that they weren't getting before in whatever food we were eating. And I thought we ate pretty healthily, and I think we still do, but obviously, we needed something to kind of bridge that gap. Another huge thing for me was what I noticed when I added the omegas in particular back in October. I was diagnosed with situational anxiety about 5 years ago. I'm not on medication, but I definitely have some rough times throughout the years where I would have anxious days, or I would have anxious days that turned into anxious weeks, and it was pretty crippling. And so I decided to try the omega. I had heard some really great things about it. I had never been on a fish oil, so I tried the omega back in October. And since then, I really have seen a huge decrease in my anxious episodes. Also, a huge thing for me in the past, before having these capsules and the omegas, if I would start to feel a little bit anxious, it would spiral into anxiety, full-blown anxious days turned into anxious weeks. Now, if I am feeling some sort of anxiety, I'm a lot more able to get myself out of it. And I do attribute a lot of that to just good nutrition and my body getting what it needs. And it makes sense. Omegas are great for our brains. So, it makes sense that would be helping that area of my life as well. I've also noticed an improvement in my mood. You could ask my husband. I'm a lot more, I'm happier. I joke a lot more. So that's better for him. It's better for all of us. So yeah, the omega, that's been huge for me as well. And then lastly, just like Julie said, for our kids, I've got a 3.5-year-old boy and a little 1.5-year-old girl. And My son would eat mac and cheese and a pickle every day if you let him. And so knowing that he's at least getting these 30 fruits and vegetables and berries in gummy form, or even opening it up and opening the capsules up and pouring it into his applesauce. I posted a video about that. I don't know if some of you saw it, but he can put the capsules into his own applesauce. So he's getting those, all the nutrients and the live enzymes and phytonutrients into his body, when otherwise it would be a struggle to get him to eat healthy. So, and to wrap it up, I just love becoming a part of this community. I get to work closely with Julie and Sarah and many of you other ladies that I see on the call tonight. And it's awesome learning what we can do with proper nutrition and helping educate families. And I've just enjoyed helping other people get healthier. So that's my story.
Thank you for sharing. I love your story. Real quick before you meet yourself. So how long has it been since you haven't had a weak spell?
Over about a year.
That's amazing. I get so excited when I think about that, because she's a mom of two. That's a big, big deal. So Sarah, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and sharing your story, we'd love to hear from you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I come from a pretty scientific background, raised with lots of science and lots of skepticism with everything. I actually heard of Juice Plus a few years back from my mother-in-law, and she gave me some to try, and I don't actually think I took it for more than a few days, and then I just put it in the back of my mind. And then my coworker, who is also an RN like myself, Happy Nurses Week, woo! Sorry, had to throw that in there. She told me about this, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember. And I was like, okay, tell me about it. And she did, and then I was skeptical, but then I went and I saw all of the immense amount of research and the science behind it. So it's not just stories, it's science-backed. So that really swayed me. And so I started taking it, and I did it so that my son could get it, because it would be free for him. And then I was like, well, I just need to get Liz to start taking this too. And fast forward a month into it, both my kids had chronic constipation issues. They don't have constipation now. Then 2 months into it, my daughter has, through no fault of her own, has had multiple viruses before she was 1. And then from then on has reactive airway disease and goes into full-blown pneumonia at least once every couple of months. And is on steroids at least once a month, oral steroids. And she goes into her yellow zones and her red zones, and I won't go into that because it's pretty detailed. It just means she gets pretty sick. But 2 months into it, I was looking at our table of medications, and I'm like, we haven't touched any of these. We haven't filled prescriptions for her. The only thing she's on now is maintenance. She hasn't been in her yellow zone, been on oral steroids, or had any rescue inhalers for 2 months. And she started this in the yellow zone 2 months ago. So we're not stopping. And then my husband, who's a skeptic and an engineer and doubts everything, said, well, I'm out of my fish oil. Why don't I take some of your omegas? And then like a week or two ago, he goes, I'm not really foggy at work anymore. I'm really like in the middle of the day, I have to like get up and walk around and like get blood back to my brain. But I don't have to do that now because there's no like haze in my brain. And because he just stares at a computer all day, which I could never do. I don't know how he does that. Anyway, I'm rambling. But anyway, it's benefited all of us. There's science behind it. And now I have multiple stories behind it. And a good thing to know is if your body's depleted in something, minor things like hair and nails, they start breaking. They start, your skin looks sallow. You're depleted in something, but when you start flooding yourself with the micronutrients, another result you can see is like, I have to start cutting my nails now. I haven't had to do that in 20 years. And my hair is growing like crazy. I've got all these little pieces that I don't know what to do with now because they're growing in. But it's just another positive side effect.
That's awesome. I love hearing your story, Sarah, and especially your healthcare background. There's no doubt we have quite a few healthcare professionals that come alongside of us because of the research. And I was definitely a healthy skeptic in the beginning as well. So, oh my gosh, your story about your daughter is just amazing. So, Julie, if my friend Julie doesn't mind unmuting herself real quickly and sharing, I would. Oh no, it's doing the funny thing where you sound like a mouse. Okay, I will share my story for you. Her son has a very amazing, this happened before, so I know it's her. Anyway, that's hysterical. Her son has a really amazing story. He had very terrible asthma as well, and he has now been going on over a year of not, he was in the hospital 3 times the year prior, and now a year of not being in the hospital. So I appreciate all of you for coming on and sharing your stories. When I found this product 3.5 years ago, my mom had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis 5 years ago. And that really started me on a mission to learn about prevention, because my grandma had the same thing and I just really didn't want to get it. And everything I learned was about food and about the link between nutrition and disease. And I was empowered to learn all of that. You still sound like a mouse. I was empowered to learn all of that, but also very overwhelmed because I didn't know where to start. So when I found Juice Plus 3.5 years ago, it just made sense. Somebody hit the easy button for me. And really what got me was when I learned that I could open up these capsules when my son was 6 months old and put it in his food. That's when I knew this product was different than anything else I had ever heard of. And I was super excited about just a way to prevent. So I had zero expectations getting on Juice Plus. I just wanted to prevent disease. And what I found was, I had terrible allergies. I'm sure many of you in St. Louis can relate right now. But what I found was I had these terrible allergies that would land me on an antibiotic for a sinus infection about every 7 to 8 weeks. I was always on an antibiotic. And I'm now 3.5 years without being on an antibiotic ever since I started Juice Plus, which is amazing for me. Similar to Kristen, I found that my mood was better. And I did not think that had to do with Juice Plus. I thought I just loved being a mom. And when I decided to share it with friends, I found 2 friends who got off of anxiety medication. And I thought, what is that link there? And then I learned that over 80% of our serotonin is made in our gut. So as I was healing my gut and feeding my gut what it needed, which our probiotics, our good gut bacteria, feed on prebiotic foods, they feed on fruits and vegetables, everything was just working how it needed to work. I also found that I had more energy. I used to sleep in my car in the afternoons, which is really embarrassing. And now that I'm busier than ever, I have more energy than I ever had before. We have a program, a 4-month program with a 10-day jumpstart if you're interested, called Shred 10. It's not about shredding pounds, it's about shredding bad habits. And my sister and I really jumped in and did that. And I had a wonderful weight loss experience. I lost 25 pounds. She lost 30. Juice Plus itself is not a weight loss product, but this community can come alongside of you and teach you quite a bit to help you shed pounds if that's what you want to do. And now, 3.5 years later, we've both maintained it outside of a pregnancy, which we never had before. And then when I added these beautiful omegas in October, similar to Kristen, I was having some anxious moments every afternoon that I didn't really realize were anxiety. And they went away, and I was shocked that they went away. And I thought it had to do with my own personal development and just being able to handle it better. And it wasn't until I met a lot of other women with the same experience that I realized this really was helping my brain do what it needed to do. And so I love these beautiful omegas. So we want to invite you to do one of 3 things. Maybe after this call, you are encouraged to go to the grocery store and buy as many fruits and vegetables as you can, get as many into yourself and your kids as you can. And if that's how you feel, we hope that you do that. Number 2, if you learn this information and you're curious to hear more about Juice Plus, please follow up with the person who invited you. It only costs around $2 to $3 a day, and children get it for free. We have an amazing program called the Children's Health Study, so ask your friend about that. And then finally, if you heard this information and you thought of somebody in your life who needs to hear it, please be willing to connect them with us. We really are on a mission to help inspire healthy living. And so we want to do whatever we can to connect with the people in your life who need to hear about this message and this amazingly simple product. So thank you so much for taking your time to join us tonight. You can unmute yourselves and say good night and say goodbye. We hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thanks, ladies. Hi, Allison. Hi, Nikki. Thank you.
Thanks for hopping on.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
Mom's always good to back. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good to see you, Donalyn. Bye. I hear Julie saying goodbye, but she sounds like a mouse. I do. It's so hysterical.
I'm like a mouse right now, and I'm not even on there.
It's so funny. All right, good night, guys.
Bye.